This segment is brought to you by Jig Masters. Step up your game with high-quality performance jigs, spinner baits, buzz baits, and more from jigmasters.com. And always, when in doubt, get the jig out.
Welcome to the Paddle and Fin Podcast Network. This is the final cast segment with your hosts Brad Hicks and Josh Eldridge, where we cast our final opinions on all products, good and bad. Welcome to the final cast. You're listening to the final cast on the Paddle and Fin Podcast Network. I'm your host, Brad.
And I'm Josh.
What's up, man? How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Pretty good, man. I'm excited for this episode because we got Houman Nikmanesh Houman Nikmanesh from Bixpy. How you doing, man?
Good. How are you guys?
I'm doing great.
Doing good.
Cool.
Yeah, so we're gonna get to some conversation here about Bixpy and talk about their product. Me and Josh has been looking at this product for a while, and we thought it'd be a cool little episode to do because they're in the kayak scene now. So, Houman, how about you start off by giving us a little background, who you are and what you do?
Yeah, so we started, I think it was 2014. I was in another completely different industry than this. We actually used to run, believe it or not, summer camps for international students and study abroad courses and stuff. So we got out of that industry and had about a year of semi-retirement in a sense, where I was trying to find something more interesting to do. So I started getting into sort of electric skateboards, electric bikes, and all things electric, lithium batteries, brushless motors, and so on. And then during one of my episodes out sailing on my Hobie tandem island, we got stuck out about 6 miles or 8 miles or whatever it was off the coast of San Diego. I mean, this part's not on the website, but we had like 6 beers in us each, me and my buddy. Wind died, so we had no sail to come back. So we had to pedal our way back like 6 miles. It was brutal. It was like, took us hours to get back, exhausted, we're sunburned, hungover now. And we're like, man, we got to get a motor on this thing because this is not humane. So can't do this again. So I went out and I started looking for motors, and there was really nothing out there. So it was either you bought a big Minn Kota with a big lead acid battery, or you bought a $3,000 Torpedo or something. So there was really nothing out there. And at the same time, I was sort of playing with these skateboards and electric bikes and so on. And at some point, I guess it clicked. I was like, oh, hey, I could do this on the kayak. And I'll put these motors on the kayak and it should be able to drive the kayak. So I ended up hiring this really cool kid. He's from UCSD. He was an engineering student. And him and I worked in my garage, literally the very cliche, California startup story. So we worked in my garage. We brought the concept to life. And then from there, I figured, a few months, we'll have this as a product. It'll be no problem, right? Easy. So 3 years later, we're still struggling trying to get waterproof these batteries and housings and stuff. And one of my sort of big things from the very beginning was that it needs to be a modular product. So it can't, I don't want to just build a motor that you put on your kayak, you put on your, and then that's it, because it's a hard justification. If you're a kayak guy and you need to justify why you need to spend, $1,100 on a kayak motor, you better be able to do something else with that motor. So then we came up with a handheld version that you can dive and snorkel and scuba with. So you can say, it is not only for me that I make the sacrifice of $1,100, it is for the family. So in a sense, we sort of, because of that, and it sort of started out as almost like a sort of not a joke, I'd say, but sort of started as can we really do this? And then it became very serious, and we started getting into the snorkel and scuba space with that. And it took a lot of our focus because it was much, much harder to get that motor to be 150 foot waterproof than it was to get it 6 or 8 inches below water, right?
Right.
So that took an incredible amount of energy from us to get these lithium batteries and all the circuitry and all of the motor and everything else, all the moving parts. And to get that, down to 100 feet, 150 feet, that was really, really challenging. But we sort of made it. Finally, we came out. We did a Kickstarter, an Indiegogo campaign, and we started shipping in 2017. And it's been 3 years. Initially, the whole idea of motorizing a kayak seemed a little bit, like, the sport is gone, and are you doing this? Should you be putting a motor? But when you sort of think about it, and when you put this motor on your kayak, it really makes it a different sport now, right? You're able to get out, you've got that safety net, you're able to go to places you can't, you're typically hesitant to go. Like, if I go, can I come back at 5 o'clock when the tide is coming back? Or, can I go out if the wind kicks up, and so on? So it really opens the door. And it also allows other people who are not normally able to paddle or pedal out to do that. So it's really opened up. It's now, it's really an accessory now to especially the guys who go kayak fishing. And so, we've grown multiple times over the years. And, this year was exceptionally busy for us because a lot of people had very little else to do. So they wanted to get out more and more. Mm-hmm. And, we had a good year. There were a lot of challenges with the tariffs, with all the shipping stuff, it's just craziness. Like every month there was a new obstacle just thrown at our face. But it's been good. We're sort of grateful for that. And so that's sort of the story in a nutshell of how we started and we got going. We did eventually, this summer, decided that the snorkel and scuba world is, it's just, we'd prefer to be in the outboard side of things, if you will. It's just, we feel more at home there. We're more comfortable with the sports. And we have a really good presence there. So we abandoned the last model we had of the snorkel and scuba stuff in the summer. And we may go back to it. We've got the technology there. We know how to do it now. We know how to do it well. But for the time being, we're really focused on the outboard stuff. So kayaks, paddleboards, and so on. So,
heck yeah. Go ahead, Brian.
I was just gonna say the whole market, like you mentioned, of kayak motors and everything. I've seen it blow up within the last 3 years, and it's crazy to see where it has come from to where it is now. And seeing all these different products like Bixpy and other trolling motors out there on the market that people are putting on these kayaks, and it just kind of blows my mind,
Yeah, I agree. Like, I think Bixby's in a good position because you guys have kind of hit it where the fishing industry for kayaking is starting to explode too. And one of the things that everybody's getting into is the ability to travel further distance and cover more water. And as long as you have that need, and as the tournament scene grows and grows and grows, that's what you're going to see. I mean, that's the one thing that separates us from the boat world. Is the boat world, those guys can go shoot from spot to spot to spot to spot to spot and go fish something for 30 minutes and be like, oh, this isn't working, and move on, 2 miles down.
Right.
We don't obviously have the speed to do that in kayaks. We will never have that speed because, you're using a boat that's only rated for so much, so much abuse that it can take. But it does give you that flexibility. You pointed out one thing that makes me always kind of on that side of the motorized kayak scene, especially for the tournaments, because I know there's a lot of people that are hesitant about their local leagues or, like whatever is happening, that they don't let motors in because it makes it unfair. But you made a huge point, in my opinion, that it should be allowed, and it allows people who may have physical disabilities or something. They have a bad shoulder or bad arms and they can't paddle, or, maybe the other way around. They have a leg issue and they can't use a pedal drive, but they want to be competitive. So a motor is going to allow them to be up there with everybody else. Not that there's anything wrong with pedaling or paddling, but for some people, they just may not physically be able to do it, but they have the right to be out there and enjoy this and try to take advantage of it as well. So,
no, absolutely. Well, we have lots of people who buy our motors who write us and say, I haven't been able to get on the water for years because, my shoulder is bad now. I'm older. I can't pedal. I'm not confident enough to pedal out 3 miles or 2 miles. But this has gotten me out now. So thank you. Now I can get out again, and so on. So, there's always an element. And it's the same thing with, e-bikes. When they first came out, it was like, you've stolen the sport of biking. This is true, but, I live in a place where I've got a 900-foot hill to climb as soon as I come out of my house. So, unless I'm 27 and in really good shape, I'm not going to be able to bike up that hill. But if I have a bike, no, I can put that bike on the hill and actually go up the hill and enjoy myself and get out there, right? So
yeah.
So it opens up a whole new sort of door for people. So
yeah, that's awesome.
I agree.
So let's get into the motor and battery. I know I've been following around, kind of checking out Bixpy and what you guys offer. And, I wanted to ask you, what kind of things do you guys have going on in regards to battery life? Like, what's the size of the battery? What kind of speeds are you getting on your kayaks, paddleboards, et cetera? Do you find like certain types of boats are, faster than other ones? Like, what kind of dimensions do you guys look at in regards to that? Or brands, if you want to call out like kayak brands, like what brands do you see where you get like more speed, less speed, whatever?
Yeah. So it's, I think it's come to a point now. And I mean, we have brands that we work with more closely. Like there's a Vibe kayak sitting right behind me, obviously.
Yeah.
Which way do I point? Everything's backwards on the screen. I got a Vibe kayak sitting behind me. So we work with Vibe a lot, right? A couple other companies as well. And there are a couple of questions that are always very common, right? So the first question everyone asks is, how long does the battery last? Or how fast can I go on this kayak or boat and so on?
Right.
So what determines speed on a kayak is the hull speed, right? And there's a really good equation for that on Wikipedia even, right? You go on there and you put your kayak size and then how much water it touches and it tells you how fast, what is the maximum speed that kayak will approach, right? So a lot of the fishing kayaks right now between the 11 to 13 foot kayaks, and they're typically anywhere from about 30 to 33 inches. Let's say the Shearwater, the Outback, these kayaks are all give or take similar size and similar hull surface area. These guys all top off at about 4.7, 4.8 miles an hour. And that's pretty much the speed you're going to get out of them. So that's whether you put a bigger motor or a smaller motor, whatever you do, you're not going to really go above that speed unless you can put such a big motor that you're now lifting the front of the kayak out of the water. So now you've got less surface area, so the kayak can go faster, right? But as long as your kayak is flat on the water, you're going to get about 4.5, let's say tops 5 miles an hour. So the bigger motor you put on there, all you're doing is now you have to carry a bigger battery. Now you have to sort of have a bigger propeller. Now you've got more drag because if you're not under power, now you got to drag this motor behind you, right? So we sort of, so there are guys out there who go and buy them in Coda for $120, put it on their kayak, and they buy a 95-pound battery and put it on their kayak, and they're like, look, for $300, I got this all set up. And it's true, you can definitely do that. But now you're dragging this huge propeller behind you and all that. So where we started off with was because we started with the kayaks, with kayaks in mind, we sort of had to build everything from scratch, right? So we couldn't have a motor that had this huge propeller that would drag behind you when you're not motoring. So we had to make sure the propeller is tiny. So, our propeller is only like 2.5 inches. And it creates almost no drag. So even if your motor isn't behind you in the water, it's not doing anything. And then we spend months and months optimizing the battery so it puts out just enough power to get an average size kayak going to its hull speed, no more, no less, right? So that battery you had on the screen is about a 333 watt hour battery. And that runs for about 70 minutes at full speed, 70 to 75 minutes full speed. And that gets you that's full speed if you're continuous use. If you turn it down a little bit, and it's that last speed that really kills the battery, right? So if you just tone down a little bit and get to the let's say 2/3 power out, you're doing about 5 hours, 6 hours at runtime. And that's a good half day of motoring. If you assist that with some pedaling and with some paddling, then you're out there for a full day, basically. So, we designed everything to purpose, as opposed to going out and getting a big heavy motor and putting a battery on it. And, so we sort of worked in a sense backwards, knowing that this is going to go on a kayak or a paddleboard. So how big a battery do you need to stay out for a day? Well, this is the battery.
Right.
So, can you use a bigger battery? Sure. And there are lots of people who buy 2 batteries because they don't want to pedal or paddle at all. They just want to power the whole time. But yeah, as it stands, that battery we've got has got 12 speeds and forward. So you'll do anywhere from just under a mile to about 4.5, 5 miles on the bigger kayaks. And then you get the slender kayaks like the Hobie Revolution or the kayaks that are sort of longer and more slender. You'll get those kayaks up to almost 6, 7 miles an hour.
Wow.
So yeah.
Yeah, you mentioned the batteries. Is there a way to daisy chain those, or you just have to interchange them once one dies?
There isn't a way to. Well, technically there is a way to daisy chain them, but because they're lithium and because of the smart charges and all of that, it gets a little pricey and complicated. So it's almost not worth doing. It's almost better to just carry an extra battery, drop it in your hatch, and when one runs out, you just plug the other one in and off you go. So we tried to make that process very simple. The remotes all sync to the different batteries, or they can all sync to one battery or multiple batteries. So you don't even have to change your remote. You just swap out the battery if you need to on the fly, and then you're good to go. Everything is waterproof. All the connectors are waterproof. So as long as you don't have your connector full of salt water, then you're good.
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
that's interesting. How much does the whole setup weigh?
So the motor is exactly 2 pounds. And then the battery is about seven and a bit. So the whole system with the adapters and stuff, you're generally under 10 pounds.
Wow.
Right.
That's pretty impressive.
Yeah. So that was a big thing for us because, one of the things we started working very early on with were paddle boards. And paddle boards can't take that much weight. So you can't put, 30 pounds of weight on the back of a paddle board. It'll just go way down. So again, we really had to shave things down to make sure it's not a weight commitment you're carrying with you. So, and then the battery floats as well. So if you do fall out or if it tips over, it'll just float and you just grab it and put it back in your kayak. So,
that's pretty cool.
Now, have you guys made any major changes to your batteries lately? Or if somebody bought like a Bixpy motor that was like 2 years old, would they be able to buy a new battery and everything's going to be fine and work out?
Yeah, we've made some changes. So we've had 2 major iterations since the beginning, but they're all backwards compatible. So if you have one of our old batteries, you can use one of the newer motors. And if you have a newer motor, you can still use the old battery.
Nice.
I'm at some point, that's probably going to stop. At some point, we're going to probably going to end up having to do a major iteration that may not hold true. But at this point and for the sort of foreseeable future, everything is backwards compatible. As we get feedback from people, we try to implement as many things as we can. But really our goal is to try and keep the entire system to about $1,000. Yeah. And we were doing really well with that until the tariffs. So unfortunately, we had to go up a little bit because of that. But I really want to keep it at that $1,000 mark because I think that's a reasonable investment to do on a kayak. And if you're going way above that, then it becomes if your motor is costing 2 or 3 times as much as your kayak, you're really thinking, what am I doing here? So
I completely agree. I thought you were going to say something, Josh.
No, you're fine. I did have a question. So with the battery life, what are you guys getting like overall battery life expectancy? How long your batteries last? A couple years? What do you think?
So these are the 18650 lithium ion cells, right? So they'll do about 800 cycles, charge cycles before you start losing about 15% of their retained energy, right? So 800 cycles for a phone or a laptop is not much because you're using it every day. But 800 cycles on something like this, where you're using it maybe 2, 3, 4 times a week at the most, with most guys averaging maybe twice a week. 800 cycles is quite a bit, right? So you've got this so our sort of expected life is about 3 years before you start noticing that you're losing some range. And after about 5 years, the batteries do sort of deteriorate on their own anyway. So you'll lose some power. After about 5 years, it's probably time to replace the battery. And because they're in the water, and especially if you're on salt water, you'll start noticing that after 5 years, some of the plastic starts getting a little brittle and the screws a little bit. So it is, you want to change the battery anyway. But yeah, so 5 years is a good sort of ballpark for how long the battery should last before you start noticing real loss. So
cool. That's pretty good for a lithium ion battery as well. I mean, it's comparable to other companies out there on the market for sure.
Right, and we have a new battery now that we use for accessories and so on, right? So sort of based on that same technology we used for the scuba stuff and for the current battery we made a new battery for accessories. So if you've got fish finders and live wells and lights and stuff on your kayak, so we now have a little battery that runs all of those. Those we use lithium iron phosphate. And those batteries last quite a bit longer, right? So they've got a shelf life of about 10 years. But they have some disadvantages. They're a little bit bigger. You can't quite draw the same amount of power from them, and they don't quite have the same chemistry, so they don't allow all the same things we get out of the lithium ion. But we're getting there. We're fine-tuning things, and hopefully we'll be able to do that on the larger scale for the kayak batteries as well. So.
And that was the battery that you guys have been really featuring through your newsletters recently, right? Like in the past year?
Yeah, we have been. And, it was supposed to be a simple product, right? So we went in last year, we had everything done. We had all the R&D done. We figured all our stuff out, and we were supposed to release, I think, sometime in end of January or February last year. And and then COVID hit. And do we do it? Do we not do it? Do we do it? Do we not do it? And we saw a couple other companies sort of dive in, and we figured, all right, we're going to do it because, we've got our stuff sorted out. We've been building stuff for a few years. We know what we're doing. Man, every obstacle you could ever imagine humanly possible has been thrown in our face. It is unbelievable. Everything from ships stuck in the harbor here in LA, not being able to dock, to tariffs, to this, to that, just unbelievable. So we finally got them. They're all behind me, actually. We've got them all, in a shelf behind me. We got them last week, and we're hopefully going to finally ship them out next week. So it'll be done and over with. But, the whole idea of we'll get through this, it's no problem. It's been quite a year, really. It's been
it has been.
I'm glad to see it turning around, though. That's a good thing, because I know if you're dealing with stuff that's out, overseas, it's been really, really tough on those companies, with COVID and just all the restrictions that ended up happening. It was just a pain. I mean, you could see it just walking in your local Field and Stream, and you're like, I want to buy a reel. And they're like, well, we don't have any. The only one we have is the floor model, and then you pick it up and you're like, it looks like it's going to fall apart because everybody's been playing with the stupid thing for 2 years. So, it's good to see that you guys have gotten, everything situated with that, and you guys are getting ready to ship. That's awesome.
Yeah. So finally, there's been, and people have been so cool. They've been super patient. Every now and then we'll get someone emailing, say, are these things coming? We're like, yes, they're coming. We're so sorry. We're so sorry. They're coming. Yeah. We'll get one thing and then it'll be missing one thing. Right. And then typically that's something that we could get them to FedEx to us for say $150. But now that $150 package is turned into a $900 package. Right. Yeah. And it just doesn't come the same way it used to. So it's just constant back and forth. Yeah. So, but yeah, it's been an interesting year to say the least.
Heck yeah.
Let's go to how you steer the motor, how the setup works with that.
Right.
Are you connecting that to foot pedals like other trolling motors on the market?
So yeah, that's I think the probably, aside from the motor design and everything else, the big thing we try to do that I think a lot of these guys are not doing is really we focus a lot of our attention to building adapters. So right now we've got probably at least about 12 different adapters that let you just sort of do plug and play, right? Some of them you do steering. So we have a rudder adapter that we've got. I can actually move this a little bit so you guys can see. We've got a rudder adapter here on the wide kayak. Right. We can also, so that one steers with the foot pedals. We've got, I'm missing my garage adapter here. There we go. It's on the wall here. Sorry. You guys can see these. There we go.
Yep.
Yeah. So we've got the pedal drive adapter basically, and this one you'll just drop into the foot pedals, whether it's on a Hobie or on the shearwater here.
Oh, that's cool.
That goes right into the pedal. So with that one, you're steering with your rudder or with whatever you normally would steer. We have what's probably most popular now, especially on the fishing kayaks. A lot of them have the power pole adapters. So we've made an adapter that goes on the back of where the power pole would normally go, and with that you can either choose to steer with your rudder, or we do have 3 or 4 different steering systems now. We offer a hand steering option where you mount a little hand steering joystick by your hand, and you can steer like you would with the Hobie rudders or with the Vibe rudders and so on. I think on there you see all the adapters. You're on the adapter section right now. Yeah.
Yep.
And
that's pretty cool.
Yeah, so we've got a pole steering, which basically gives you sort of a paintbrush handle right by your side that you can just sort of push back and forth and steer with. I got a hand steering, a foot steering, a tiller steering. So if you're on a dinghy or some sort of an inflatable, you can sort of do your old-fashioned steering left and right. And of course, the foot steering with the rudders. So we've worked really sort of hard getting these adapters made for as many applications as we can, and sort of allow everybody to just as much as possible plug and play the motors into their kayaks. So that's been a big part of what we do, aside from the motors and batteries.
So have you guys thought about doing like electronic style steering, like something with like a servo that would be able to be controlled by remote?
Sure. So we could do that, except implementing that into different kayaks will be incredibly difficult, because every kayak has their own shape and size and where the motor goes. And then that would push us way above that $1,000 mark now.
Yeah.
Because now we have
that kind of technology is pretty expensive.
Yeah, because now we have 2 motors, and you've got, now your battery, some of your battery is going to go to that servo motor, and all the complications with extra moving parts and so on. Whereas mechanical steering is so simple, and it's so readily already out there, that one day if we are making enough, hopefully that'll make sense to do, especially for things like that pedal drive that's so sort of stable in there. You may be able to steer that some way, but right now at that price point, it's just not. I wish it
right.
Yeah, it'd be really cool.
That would be kind of cool, like a little 360 pod for the Vibe or something. Yeah, I never thought about that.
Yeah, I mean, Hobie's got that 360 where they turn.
Yeah.
That thing, and it wouldn't be, I guess we'd have to look at, how they turn that thing exactly and so on. But it wouldn't be possible. But it wouldn't be cheap. That's for sure.
Right. Yeah, the drive that fits in their boat alone, that's not a cheap drive.
No, that's right. Yeah. You're right. Just that foot pedal alone, and there's no motor, no batteries, nothing in there, and that's over $1,000, I think, or just about $1,000, right?
Yeah. Pretty cool.
Yeah.
Now, I did see that you guys have the ability to solar charge. Is that correct?
So we can solar charge the accessory battery. We can't really solar charge. Well, we could solar charge the big battery, the outboard battery. The problem is you need like 22 hours of straight sunlight to actually solar charge that thing in any real way, right? So that's 2 full days of sun. California sun, not like northeast or like
Ohio sun.
Whatever, yeah. So this is California sun, and it still takes you 2 full days. So it's just not practical. So by the time you pay $600 for a solar panel, and find the right angle of the dangle to charge your battery for 22 hours, it's just not practical.
Yeah.
And I think you constantly have disappointed people where like, oh, I was only able to charge so much. So but we'll get there. It's the technology, right? It just takes time. So
yeah, because I mean, even if you thought about it, like even if you put a small one on and you were like, well, I'm just going to use it supplemental, you know what I mean, to try to extend my range. But at that rate, you're not really extending that range hardly at all then, right?
That's right. Yeah. You might as well just pedal a bit more. Like just a little bit of pedaling will make up for that, right?
Yeah.
So, this is what we've got. You know, this is the solar panel we've got for our accessory battery, right? So you've got a panel about this big.
Yeah,
right?
that's big.
And this is already kind of big, as you know, if you're putting this on a kayak. The trouble is you have to have the entire solar panel exposed to get it to charge properly. Even a small percentage of it being covered is going to really reduce your charging time. So, you know, and this charges the small battery, the accessory battery, but for it to charge that big battery, it's going to be really tough. It's going to take forever. So yeah, but again, you know, this is technology that's getting better literally every year, right?
Yeah, right.
You know, so I'm hoping in a couple of years we'll be able to do that easily. So
I don't know if I missed it or not, but did we talk about how long it takes to charge the battery from empty to full?
about 5 hours.
5 hours? That's
Yeah.
not bad.
Yeah. So typically overnight, and then you're good to go the next day.
Yeah, that's not bad at all. I know some of my other batteries, I know they're like lithium phosphate, and they took 6 or 7 hours. So that sounds about right.
Right. So yeah, that's all. It just depends how much you're willing to invest in the charging system, right? So you buy a cheaper charger, it'll take you a lot longer, but then you don't have to worry about overheating and stuff like that. You buy slightly better charging systems and chargers, then you'll do a little faster. So yeah.
And do you guys have any other adapters that are in the works? Anything new?
Yeah, we do, man, constantly. So my sort of thing is, you know, we need to have a new adapter like at least once every 3 months. We need something new. So we've got 3 coming up at the end of this month. So, but I can't tell you anything more. So yeah,
It's okay. We're used to that because we always ask, "Hey, you guys got something new?" And it's like, "Yeah, but we can't tell you." So we just just love asking it.
yeah.
Sometimes somebody gives up stuff, but not all the time.
Yeah, we have 3. Actually, it's not even new adapters. So we have 3 major improvements to our existing product that are coming up at the end of this month. But we have 4 other completely new products we're working on that's going to come out over the next year, and those are really they're very different than, well, not different from what we're doing, but different in the sense that they're new products. And those will be coming out in the next year, I'm hoping. So. But yeah,
Let's talk about warranty and repairs and stuff like that.
right.
But is a repair something somebody can do on their own, or do they have to send it in?
Sure, some of the stuff they can do on their own. So you know, we tried to make it as everything is sealed, so there is no maintenance in that sense. We've used, you know, we went through hell trying to find stainless steel that doesn't rust at all in any sort of condition. So we ended up sourcing our shaft material, for instance, out of Germany, out of a company that makes very specialized stainless steel. So you can actually leave it. If it was salt water all the time, you wouldn't even need to rinse it. But still, you know, you want to maintain your stuff, right? So some of the stuff, and some of the stuff is designed to break. So we've got on this little guy here, it is a modular product, so it's made to stick to different things. The little nose piece will break if you hit something hard, you know. So we've sort of done that on purpose, because if that doesn't break, then your connector will definitely break, and that's a much more difficult repair. So the nose piece has got 2 screws. You take it out, you put a new nose piece on, and you're done. If you get into pebbly stuff, you may break your propeller. They're about $15. You get a new propeller and you're done, and you can pop off the back and put a new propeller on. If you do severe damage, as long as water doesn't get inside the motor housing, we can pretty much repair anything for about anywhere from $50 to $80. So you send it back to us, we repair it. The batteries are completely sealed, so unless you do something crazy to them, then you shouldn't have anything. You shouldn't need to do anything to them. They'll just last. So. And obviously we've gotten better and better over time with new releases, and less things go wrong. And every time something goes wrong, we look at things and see what we didn't think of that somebody else did in their garage.
Yeah,
that we never even imagined somebody would put it on their kayak and drive straight into their living room in reverse. Who would have thought? But I've got pictures, so
yeah. But the reason why I ask the repair question is because myself and Josh, we're both river guys, and I'm just curious how that that propeller, the drive and everything, I'm just curious how it holds up to big rocks and going through riffles and stuff like that.
So, I mean, you got to remember at some point, if you hit stuff hard, you're either going to break the motor or you're going to break stuff on your kayak, right? So, you know, when we see stuff in rivers, like especially with big rocks, if you've got this on your rudder, for instance, right? You're going to hit something, and a few things are going to happen. Either you're going to break off the nose piece, or if you hit a little bit higher, you'll break your rudder. And if the rudder doesn't break, you may break your rudder pin. If you know, so at some point, this stuff is all either plastic or some sort of aluminum or metal. Some of it is going to break. So over the years, what we've tried to do is try to make sure that the things that break don't cause catastrophic failure.
Right.
So at least we can repair it easily, right? So one of the things we did was that little piece in the front was we found that if you don't break this, you'll break this, the connector. And that's much costlier, and because water can get in at that point.
Okay.
So we figured, all right, let's break the front, because that's easier. It's better. You can easily replace that front, right? So that's what it comes down to at the end, is you're going to break something if you hit hard. You know, is it going to be something that's, you know, $15 and you can do it yourself, or is it going to be something that's going to be $150 and you're going to have to ship it in, right? So we keep trying to go toward that, you know, fix it yourself with a couple of pieces of plastic or metal, and then that's it.
Yeah.
And do you offer some kind of swinging arm, like if you do hit something with the motor where it swings up?
Definitely, yeah. So we do. So the rudders all swing up. All of the outboard, all of the sort of transom adapters we have, they all have a swing up feature. The only ones that don't really swing or have any give are the ones you put into the pedal drives. And there's not much give on that. So if you hit that, you're definitely breaking something. So we always encourage people, like if you're not in deep water, don't use the pedal adapters, because you're gonna inevitably hit something, right? I mean, at the end of the day, you're in the water, there's stuff going on, you're gonna hit something. So if you're not in deep water, if you're not in the ocean, then don't use the pedal adapters. Use something in the back, use something in the transom where you're able to kick up, right? So
yeah, I think that'd be pretty important, especially on a river, for sure.
Yeah, on the river, you know, you want some give, right? Otherwise you'll break something for sure. So.
Yep. Any kind of like rock guard or weed guard that you guys have to do?
Weed guard. Yeah, there's a weed guard that we ended up actually making, because it was mostly because where we are, there's a lot of eelgrass. And the eelgrass was getting in there all the time, and it was driving us nuts. So we actually had a customer who built his own weed guard for the motor. And we were so inspired. We're like, oh man, this is amazing. Can we steal your idea? And he's like, yeah, by all means. So we actually ended up designing a weed guard that goes onto the propeller. And I'll grab one here. Give me 1 second. I'll grab it. I'll get one of these guys to grab one for me. Yeah, so there was a weed guard that goes on the back. So you do lose a little bit of power, but it's well worth it if you're in grassy, especially pebbly places where little pebbles can get in, because the motor is spinning at about 6,800 RPM.
Wow.
So if you get the right size pebble into the propeller at the right time at that speed, so that's our little weed grill, and that'll just go on, replace the grill that's on the, and so this gets rid of pebbles and eelgrass and so on, and it's especially if it's in the back where you can't reach it, it's a good thing to have on hand. So
yeah, cool.
Have you guys had any kind of complaints with any issues with like fishing line? Because I know, like, you know, that's a big nightmare for a lot of people using motorized kayaks, whether it's trolling motors or whatever, but is always always to kind of try to be cognizant, check your props and stuff like that for it. Because what you may not see is gathering up more and more and more eventually. So do you guys have like a recommendation, or do you guys not really have that issue because of the smaller motors that kind of avoid it a little bit?
Yeah, we don't, to be honest. Like, you know, Mac is sitting here. He does all of our support stuff. I would say, like, in the past year, we've probably had 1 or 2 people who've had their fishing line caught in there. It's really rare for that to happen. It's mostly eelgrass or pebbles. That's the biggest thing, and that's because people beach them, right?
Yeah.
So that's That's one thing. But yeah, fishing lines have been actually quite rare, which is cool. I it's something I never expected. I figured at some point some people will get in there. But that's been a rarity. So
I used to have a motor on my old kayak, and I remember going under a tree that had stuff hanging down from it. I didn't see it. I went right through it. It grabbed the line and just snapped the tree. And I just looked back. I'm sitting there towing a tree with a line attached to my motor.
Right.
That's funny.
Yeah. Do you guys have? You mentioned something that I kind of wanted to touch base on just a second ago. Do you guys have like a support, like group or like contact information that you provide with your customers that help them through any kind of issues?
Yeah, so we try to sort of stay connected as much as possible. So we have the Facebook owners group that people get on, and they help each other out a lot. Man, there are people out there who are way better and brighter than we are at making stuff. So, you go on that owners group, people are making all kinds of DIY projects and stuff. It's amazing. They sort of help each other out and get through it, because it doesn't matter what we do. There are so many kayaks out there and so many different applications that there's always someone better at us in doing what they do. So there's definitely that user group. We have now actually probably about a month ago, we launched a website, a completely different website than our website, Bixpy.info. And Bixpy.info is just completely dedicated to support, installation, videos, ideas, and support. So if you want to get in touch with us and open a support ticket or send stuff in for repairs, that website is completely dedicated to that. We worked for months putting a database together of all the different kayaks we could find and how you would motorize them. So those kayaks are all listed there. So you go in there, find your kayak, you sort it alphabetically, find your kayak, and it tells you which adapter best fits your kayak. And then, of course, social media, right? So we're out there all the time, Facebook, our website. We have a live chat on our website that you can get a hold of us. So that's a really important element of this whole industry. It's a small community. Everyone knows everyone, and everyone helps everyone. It's a really cool community to be in. So yeah, definitely lots of stuff out there for people to get a hold of us and to get what they need. So
that's awesome, man. Because there's one thing that you see, especially when it's starting to improve. But a couple years ago, when I started really kind of getting into accessorizing my kayak and buying this, because at first I kept it simple. I was a river guy. I had like 3-4 rods with me, had a simple milk crate. But the more I got into it, but here's the thing I was always kind of running into is like, you buy some new accessory or something, and you're like, I'm not 100% sure if I'm putting this together right. Or, and then you're like, it doesn't come with any kind of instructions. And then you're like, you watch like a video and you're kind of like, but that's on a different kayak. So it's like, it's nice that you guys have brought together so much information in one, it's specific to your product. So it's like, here it is. Here's the information. Go check it out. And, it's all right there at the click of a button. And that's cool, man, because that's one thing I saw that the industry itself was lacking sometimes, was just not enough clarity on it. So, or you watch a video and you're like, they do it so fast or whatever, and you're sitting there trying to pause it, like, what?
Yeah. Yeah. And we've made playlists of other people's installations on our website, because they're like I said, there are people who do it better than we do, to be honest. Mm-hmm. And there are more they explain it better. Like because we're completely immersed in this stuff. So we don't even think about the small stuff. Yeah. But you've got guys who are so amazing at this, and they do amazing installations. They explain it so well. They get all the right angles and the lighting. Mm-hmm. And we share all of that with people, with everybody, as much as we can. Why not, right? So yeah, that's been a really cool part of this, and that's really what sort of pushed us into this, the kayak and the kayak fishing space, more than the snorkeling and scuba space, because there wasn't that community the same way in the snorkeling and scuba business as there is in the kayak fishing and the kayaking industry, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
I agree. I like the kayak community. It's awesome.
It's very cool. Yeah, for sure.
Yep. Well, I think we're winding down here, man. Unless Josh has anything else to throw in here. I mean,
No, I think we're good, man. I mean, we touched base, you touched base in regards to like, pre-orders and stuff like that.
Mhm.
And, you guys seem to be getting on track with everything. Everything seems to be coming along. And I think we're seeing an improvement. I mean, that was just everything that happened with that. It was just so much COVID related. It's just that if anybody has an issue right now, not getting their crap on time, chill out, because it's not you specifically. It is across the board, man. This whole planet right now is behind. So chill out. Stop giving everybody such a hard time.
Sure. I think it adjusted everyone's expectations and it sort of nudged everyone's reality that, hey, relax.
Yeah.
Your stuff will come next week. Yeah. Not the end of the world.
Well,
go ahead, Brad. I'm sorry.
We live in a society where everybody wants it now.
Yeah, that's right.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
We'll blame that on the internet. Everything's at a click of a button.
That's all his fault.
Well, we do appreciate you taking the time to come on and talk to us. I learned a lot. I've always had this huge interest in Bixpy. Mm-hmm. I've been looking into putting one on my Jackson Kilroy for quite some time. And because, I don't have the money for a Torqeedo, not knocking it. It's a great product. They make awesome motors. It's just financially, it's way above my price range, Mm-hmm. So, and the thing I like about Bixpy is it's lightweight, and I'd like to try Bixpy out in the river a little bit and stuff like that. And that's Torqeedo is a big motor. Bixpy, a lot lighter and a lot more compact. Mm-hmm. And I could get out there in the lakes and, speed up a little bit. So I'm excited about trying it out, man. I appreciate you taking the time. I learned a lot. So thank you.
Thanks for having me on.
Appreciate it. So before we end this, you have any shout outs or anywhere people can find you guys to follow you?
Yeah. Instagram, our website, obviously, Facebook, we're active on all the usual stuff, man. Am I missing anything? Someone can yell at me. YouTube. Yes. YouTube. Yep. We got videos, more videos coming soon. We're taking on a couple new ambassadors, so we should have more content coming as well. Weather is getting better soon, I hope. So we'll get out there more and make some more videos and content. But ultimately everything ends up on our website. So if you end up on there, you'll dig around, you'll find us and get lots of info.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Yep. We'll end this here, guys. Thanks for listening. If you made it through this far, and we appreciate you guys. We'll see you guys next week. Have a good one.
Thanks for tuning in to another killer episode on Paddle and Fin. Don't forget to go check out our website at paddle_and_fin.com. Don't forget to check out the YouTube channel at Paddle and Fin. If you got a question, comment, want to hear from a future guest on a future episode, feel free to email us at paddle_and_fin@gmail.com. Don't forget to follow us on social media at Paddle and Fin on Facebook and Instagram. Shout out to our show supporters, Angler. The Angler button and app just makes for a better time on the water and creates a virtual logbook for every fishing outing out on the water. Shout out to Rocktown Adventures, located in northern Illinois, for all your kayaking, camping, and hiking needs. Shout out to Jig Masters Jigs. When in doubt, get the jig out. Go to jigmasters.com.